I'm Rachel, 30 years old, raised in what I thought was a close-knit family in suburban Boston. My whole life, I've been the responsible one, while my siblings took advantage. But last Christmas, everything I believed about my family shattered when I discovered their coordinated betrayal. The shock of finding out they'd planned a secret vacation without me changed everything. Let me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if you've ever had to choose between family obligation and self-respect. Growing up in our modest colonial house in Lexington, Massachusetts, I always felt secure in my family's love. My mother, Margaret, taught fifth grade at the local elementary school, while my father, Thomas, worked as an accountant for a mid-sized firm downtown. We weren't wealthy, but we had enough. My brother Kevin is 4 years older than me, and my sister Megan is 3 years younger. From the outside, we looked like the perfect American family: Sunday dinners, summer vacations to Cape Cod, and holiday traditions that never changed. But beneath the surface, roles were firmly established early on. Kevin, as the oldest, was the adventurous one, always dreaming big and taking risks. Megan, the baby of the family, was the creative free spirit who needed protection and guidance. And me? I was the dependable middle child, the mediator, the problem solver. When we were kids, if Kevin broke a window playing baseball, I'd help clean up before our parents got home. When Megan forgot her homework, I'd drive back to school with her to sweet-talk the teacher. Being the responsible one became my identity, and for a long time, I was proud of it. As we grew older, these childhood roles intensified rather than evolved. After college, I secured a job at a marketing firm and worked my way up to executive level through 80-hour weeks and sacrifice vacations. Meanwhile, Kevin bounced from one entrepreneurial opportunity to another: a food truck that lasted 6 months, an app idea he never fully developed, a dropshipping business that collapsed after a year. Every time one of Kevin's ventures failed, he'd approach our parents for a business loan. They'd empty their savings to help him, convinced that his next idea would be the one to succeed. When their funds ran dry, Kevin would turn to me with passionate pitches and promises of repayment once he made it big. Megan's pattern was different, but equally draining. She enrolled in art school, then dropped out after a semester to find herself. Next came culinary school, abandoned when the hours proved too demanding. Then nursing, teaching certification, web design. Each new passion accompanied by requests for tuition, apartment deposits, car repairs, and emergency rent money when she quit jobs that weren't fulfilling her creative spirit. Our parents enabled both of them, making excuses like, "Kevin just hasn't found his path yet," or "Megan is so sensitive, she needs time to discover her purpose." But with me, the expectations were crystal clear. I should be financially independent, career-focused, and available whenever family needed help. By my late 20s, I'd lent Kevin over $40,000 that was never repaid. I'd covered Megan's rent 6 times when she was between jobs. I'd contributed to our parents' household expenses when they drained their retirement accounts to fund Kevin's latest business idea, all while managing my own mortgage, car payment, and student loans. The resentment built slowly. Each time I received a panicked call about an overdue bill or a teary plea for just a small loan until next month, I felt a little more used. But they were family, and in our house, family always came first. 3 years ago, I met Marcus at a charity event hosted by my company. He was smart, stable, and saw through my family's dynamic immediately. On our third date, after I canceled dinner plans because Megan needed help moving out of her apartment, her roommates were totally toxic, Marcus asked gently, "Do you realize you're enabling their dependency?" I dismissed his concerns. They're going through rough patches. They'd do the same for me. But would they? The question lingered as our relationship deepened. Marcus came from a family where everyone pulled their weight. His brother and sister were independent, and family gatherings were about connection, not financial assistance. Still, I held on to hope that my siblings would mature, that my parents would establish boundaries, that we'd eventually become the truly supportive family I pretended we already were. Every Christmas, we gathered at my parents' house for our traditional celebration. Despite everything, I cherished these moments when we seemed like the loving family I wanted us to be. Last year, Marcus proposed after 2 years together. I was ecstatic and immediately knew I wanted to announce our engagement at Christmas, when everyone would be together. Despite Marcus's concerns about my family's reaction, I was convinced they'd be happy for me. This milestone, I thought, might even help reset our family dynamic. In the weeks leading up to Christmas, I splurged on gifts despite my tight budget. A premium coffee machine for my parents to replace their broken one, noise-canceling headphones for Kevin who complained about distractions while working, and a professional quality camera for Megan who'd recently shown interest in photography. I wrapped each gift meticulously, imagining their faces when they opened them. I picture my mother's joy when I showed her my engagement ring, my father's proud tears, my siblings' excitement about gaining Marcus as a brother-in-law. After years of feeling undervalued, I convinced myself that this Christmas would be different. I had no idea how different it would actually be, just not in the way I'd hoped. December was always my busiest time at work. As the marketing director for our firm's largest accounts, I spent weeks finalizing year-end campaigns and preparing strategy presentations for January. Last year was particularly demanding with 3 new clients added to my portfolio in November. Despite the crushing workload, I carved out time to plan the perfect Christmas. Marcus and I decided to wait until Christmas Day to announce our engagement, imagining it as the highlight of our family gathering. I even bought a special bottle of champagne to celebrate the moment. "Are you sure you want to share the spotlight with Christmas?" Marcus asked one evening as we discussed our announcement. "We could have a separate dinner. Make it all about us." "Christmas is when everyone's together and happy," I insisted. "It'll make it even more special." With my typical efficiency, I created a detailed shopping list for gifts. Despite being on a strict budget to save for our future home with Marcus, I was determined to give everyone something meaningful. I spent hours researching the perfect coffee machine for my parents, comparing features and reading reviews until I found one that would last for years. For Kevin, I chose headphones that would help with his claimed productivity issues. Megan's camera was professional grade, giving her the tools to pursue photography seriously if she stuck with it. The gift stretched my credit card to its limit, but I convinced myself it was worth it. This Christmas wasn't just about tradition. It was about celebrating new beginnings and strengthening family bonds. 2 weeks before Christmas, I called my mother to coordinate my usual role in the holiday preparations. "Don't worry about coming early this year, honey," she said, her voice oddly pitched. "Dad and I have everything under control." This was unusual. For the past 5 years, I'd arrived the day before Christmas Eve to help cook, clean, and decorate. My mother always insisted she needed my help. "Are you sure? I don't mind coming Thursday instead of Friday." No, she said quickly. "Actually, we're going to be quite busy with church activities. Just come Christmas Eve morning like everyone else." When I hung up, I felt a twinge of unease but dismissed it. Perhaps my parents were finally recognizing my busy schedule and trying not to burden me. The next day, I called Kevin to coordinate our arrivals. "When are you heading to Mom and Dad's?" I asked. He hesitated. "Probably Christmas Eve, same as always. Want a carpool? I can pick you up."
"No,"
he answered too quickly. "I mean, I might have some last-minute shopping, don't want to hold you up." Similar conversations with Megan left me increasingly confused. She claimed she was figuring out her schedule and might have a ride with a friend. When I pointed out that she lived in the opposite direction from our parents' house, she mumbled something about making stops along the way and changed the subject. A week before Christmas, I stopped by my parents' house unannounced with some homemade cookies. I'd finished work early and thought it would be a nice surprise. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed my father hurriedly closing the garage door. Through the gap, I glimpsed several suitcases. "Rachel, what a surprise," he said, his smile too bright. "Your mother's not home right now. What's with the luggage?" I asked. "Are you going somewhere?" "Just organizing for the church donation drive," he answered, guiding me away from the garage. These old suitcases had been cluttering the attic. Inside, the house was immaculate. unusual for my parents, who typically left Christmas preparations until the last minute. When I mentioned this, my father shrugged and said, "Your mother's been on a cleaning spree. You know how she gets." I noticed travel brochures hastily shoved under a magazine on the coffee table but didn't comment. As I was leaving, my mother called, and I overheard my father say, "Yes, she just stopped by unexpectedly. No, I don't think she suspects anything." That evening, I mentioned these strange occurrences to Marcus. "Something feels off with my family," I said. "Everyone's being weird about Christmas plans." Marcus frowned. "Do you think they might be planning something without you?" "No way." I dismissed the thought. Christmas is sacred in our family. We always spend it together. But the seed of doubt was planted. I found myself checking my siblings' social media more frequently, looking for clues. Kevin had been unusually quiet online, and Megan's posts were vague about her holiday plans. 3 days before Christmas, I received a group text from my mother. "Reminder to everyone, Christmas Eve dinner at 6, church service at 9, presents Christmas morning at 10. Can't wait to have all my children under one roof." The message reassured me. I was being paranoid, letting work stress affect my perception. Of course we would have our normal Christmas. Of course my family wouldn't exclude me from anything important. When Christmas Eve arrived, Marcus and I drove to my parents' house with our gifts and champagne. The familiar sight of my childhood home decorated with multicolored lights and the plastic Santa my father had displayed every year since I was born filled me with warmth. Whatever strange vibes I'd been feeling had to be in my head. My mother greeted us at the door with hugs and exclamations about how tired I looked. My father clapped Marcus on the back and offered him a beer. Kevin and Megan were already there, both glancing at their phones more than usual. Aunt Patty and Uncle Bill arrived shortly after us, along with my cousins Amber and Taylor. I noticed them exchange looks with my parents that seemed loaded with meaning. When I hugged Aunt Patty, she whispered, "It's so good to see you, dear. We've missed you at family gatherings." This struck me as odd. I'd attended every family event in the past year. During dinner, conversation flowed, but felt somehow rehearsed. Everyone asked about my work, but changed the subject when I inquired about their plans for the week after Christmas. Kevin avoided eye contact, and Megan seemed unusually interested in the table centerpiece. After dinner, as we prepared to leave for the church service, Megan realized she'd forgotten her phone in the kitchen. She asked if I could grab it while she put on her coat. Always the helpful sister, I agreed. In the kitchen, I found her phone on the counter. As I picked it up, a notification flashed on the screen, a group text that included my parents, Kevin, and several other family members. The preview showed just enough. Flight confirmed for 10 a.m. 12/26. Everyone packed. My heart sank. I told myself there must be an explanation. Maybe they were planning a surprise for Marcus and me? But why wouldn't they include me in the planning? With shaking hands, I returned Megan's phone and said nothing. Throughout the church service, I sat in a daze, barely hearing the familiar carols as questions tumbled through my mind. What were they planning? Why was I excluded? Should I confront them now or wait? That night, as Marcus and I settled into my old bedroom, I whispered my discovery. "You need to ask them directly," he advised. "Don't let this ruin our engagement announcement, but don't let it go either." I nodded, determined to enjoy Christmas morning despite my growing anxiety. Whatever was happening, I would deal with it after our special moment. I had no idea that by the next afternoon, I would be driving away from my childhood home with tears streaming down my face, my trust in my family shattered beyond repair. Christmas morning dawned bright and cold. I woke early, anxiety churning in my stomach, but forced a smile as Marcus and I joined everyone downstairs. The living room looked picture-perfect, twinkling lights on the tree, presents arranged beneath it, the scent of cinnamon rolls baking in the oven. My mother had even put out the special Christmas china we'd used since I was a child. "Merry Christmas, everyone." My father boomed, distributing cups of coffee. Kevin looked hungover, slouched in the armchair, while Megan perched on the floor near the tree, already sorting gifts into piles. "Let's get started with presents," my mother suggested. "Rachel, why don't you hand them out like you used to when you were little?" I played along, determined to maintain the Christmas spirit despite my unease. One by one, I distributed gifts, saving the special ones I'd brought for last. When everyone had a small mountain before them, we began opening them in our family's traditional youngest to oldest order. Megan unwrapped my gift first, lifting the professional camera from its box. "Wow," she said flatly. "This looks expensive." "It's the one you were looking at online," I prompted. "Remember? You said it would be perfect for landscape photography."
Oh, right.
"Thanks." She set it aside without examining the features I'd spent hours researching. Kevin's reaction to his noise-canceling headphones was similarly underwhelming. "Cool. Thanks, Ratch," he muttered, barely glancing at them before moving on to the next gift. My parents showed more enthusiasm for their coffee machine, but I caught them exchanging a glance that seemed almost guilty. My own gifts were thoughtful but oddly impersonal: a generic sweater from my parents, a gift card from Kevin, bath products from Megan. Nothing that suggested they'd put much thought into what I might actually want or need. As the unwrapping wound down, I squeezed Marcus's hand, signaling it was time for our announcement. He nodded encouragingly. "Everyone," I said, standing up. "Marcus and I have some news to share." All eyes turned to me, and for a moment, I felt the familiar warmth of being surrounded by family. "We're engaged." I held out my hand to display the vintage sapphire ring Marcus had given me. He proposed last month, and we wanted to tell everyone together on Christmas. There was a beat of silence before my mother rose to hug me. "Congratulations, honey. That's wonderful news." My father shook Marcus's hand. "Welcome to the family, son." Kevin raised his coffee mug in a half-hearted toast. "Congrats, you guys." Megan smiled tightly. "The ring is pretty." Their reactions felt muted, almost distracted. No one asked about wedding plans or how Marcus had proposed. No one suggested opening the champagne I'd brought. After a few minutes of stilted conversation, my mother announced it was time to prepare Christmas dinner. "I'll help," I offered automatically. "No need," she replied. "Megan's already helping me." In the sudden shuffle of activity, Megan left her phone on the couch. A notification lit up the screen, and without thinking, I glanced at it. It was a message from someone named Bahamas Group that read, "Final reminder. Meet at airport 8 a.m. tomorrow. Don't forget passports and sunscreen." My stomach dropped. I picked up the phone, and before I could stop myself, I opened the message thread. What I saw confirmed my worst fears. It was a group chat including my parents, Kevin, Megan, Aunt Patty, Uncle Bill, and my cousins, everyone present at our Christmas gathering except Marcus and me. The messages detailed plans for a 10-day family vacation to the Bahamas, departing December 26th. They'd been planning it for months, coordinating flights, sharing resort information, discussing excursions. One message from my mother read, "Remember, not a word to Rachel. She's so busy with work anyway, and we don't want her to feel left out." Kevin had replied, "She'd probably just say she can't come because of some deadline." Megan's response, "Plus, she'd bring Marcus, and this is supposed to be just family." Just family. The words burned into my brain. Apparently, I was family when they needed money or help, but not when it came to creating happy memories together. When Megan returned and saw me with her phone, her face drained of color. "Why are you going through my phone?" she demanded, snatching it away. "Why are you all going to the Bahamas without telling me?" I countered, my voice shaking. The room fell silent. Marcus moved to stand beside me, his hand on my shoulder in silent support. My mother emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. "What's going on?" "I know about the trip," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "The one you've been planning for months. The one everyone here knows about except Marcus and me." My father stepped forward, his expression a mixture of guilt and defiance. "Rachel, it's not what you think." "Really?" "Because it looks like my entire family planned a vacation together and deliberately excluded me." "We didn't exclude you," my mother insisted. We knew you were busy with work, and we didn't want to make you feel bad about not being able to come. So instead of inviting me and letting me decide, You all lied to my face? For months. Kevin shrugged, avoiding my gaze. You're always so busy with work anyway. We figured you wouldn't want to take the time off. And we wanted a real family vacation, Megan added, then flinched at her own words. A real family vacation, I repeated slowly. So Marcus and I aren't real family? That's not what she meant. My father interjected quickly. It's just that with your work schedule and Marcus's family obligations, coordinating everyone would have been complicated. Complicated, I echoed, the hurt in my chest hardening into anger. More complicated than orchestrating this elaborate lie? Than making sure no one slipped up and told me? Then clearing your browser history so I wouldn't see your vacation research. No one answered. How long have you been planning this? I asked. Aunt Patty cleared her throat. Since July, I think. 6 months. For 6 months, every conversation, every family dinner, every text message had contained this secret. And who's paying for this trip? I asked, though I already suspected the answer. The uncomfortable glances between my parents and siblings confirmed it. Kevin, when you borrowed $3,000 from me in September for business equipment, was that for this trip? He had the decency to look ashamed. I was going to pay you back. And Megan, when I helped you with rent in October because you said your hours got cut, was that so you could save for this vacation? She studied the floor, saying nothing. Mom, Dad, that plumbing emergency you needed help with last month. Was there even a leak? My mother's eyes filled with tears. Rachel, please understand. We just wanted a nice family vacation. Without me, I finished for her. You wanted a nice family vacation without me. You're making this a bigger deal than it is, Kevin complained. It's just a trip. It's not just a trip, I said, my voice breaking. It's the fact that you all went out of your way to hide it from me. It's the fact that you used me for money to fund it. It's the fact that none of you considered for a moment how this would make me feel. We did consider your feelings, my father insisted. That's why we didn't tell you. We didn't want you to feel left out. The twisted logic was almost laughable. So instead you deliberately left me out? How does that make sense? No one had a good answer. The room filled with awkward silence, broken only by my mother's quiet sniffling. Marcus squeezed my shoulder. I think we should go, he said softly. I nodded, suddenly exhausted. We're leaving. Enjoy your vacation. Rachel, don't go like this, my mother pleaded. It's Christmas. Yes, it is, I agreed. And I just found out what my family really thinks of me. Best gift ever. As Marcus and I gathered our things, my family's excuses continued. They hadn't meant to hurt me. They'd planned to tell me eventually. They'd bring me a souvenir. Each word only deepened the wound. I walked out of my childhood home without looking back, the carefully wrapped presents I'd brought sitting forgotten under the tree. In the car, Marcus drove in silence while I stared out the window, tears streaming down my face. My phone buzzed with messages from my family, but I couldn't bear to read them. They used me, I whispered finally. All these years, they've been using me. Marcus reached for my hand. What do you want to do? I closed my eyes, the weight of years of unequal treatment crushing down on me. I don't know yet, but I know things can't go back to the way they were. As we drove away from my past, I had no idea that this painful revelation would ultimately lead me to the strongest decision of my life, and eventually, to freedom I never knew was possible. The week after Christmas passed in a blur of grief and anger. I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years, unable to face client meetings while my emotional world imploded. Marcus brought me tea and sat with me through tearful nights, never once saying, "I told you so," about my family's behavior. My phone filled with messages I couldn't bring myself to read. Notifications from Instagram showed my family's vacation photos. Sunset beach walks, fancy resort dinners, smiling group pictures with everyone wearing matching tropical shirts. Each image was a fresh wound, proof that they were having the time of their lives while I processed the betrayal. You should block them, Marcus suggested gently on the 3rd day, after finding me sobbing over a photo of my parents and siblings on a catamaran cruise. At least until you're ready to deal with this. I need to see, I insisted. I need to understand what was worth lying to me for months. But looking at their smiling faces only deepened my confusion and hurt. How could they enjoy themselves knowing what they'd done? Did I matter so little to them? On New Year's Eve, while Marcus and I sat quietly at home instead of attending the party we'd planned to go to, I finally opened their messages. From Mom, Rachel, please don't overreact. We love you and never meant to hurt you. Call me when you've calmed down. From Dad, your mother is upset. This vacation was her idea to bring the family together. Don't ruin it for her. From Kevin, seriously, sis? Drama much? It's just a vacation. I'll pay you back when I get home. From Megan, I'm sorry you found out that way, but you're being super dramatic right now. Not everything is about you. Not a single genuine apology. Not one message that acknowledged the real issue. That they had conspired to exclude me while using my financial support to fund their trip. I threw my phone across the room, startling Marcus. They still don't get it, I said, fresh tears streaming down my face. They think I'm overreacting because I wasn't invited on vacation. They don't understand that it's about the lying, the manipulation, the taking me for granted. Marcus retrieved my phone, checking that it wasn't broken. Maybe they can't see it because it's been the pattern for so long. You've always been the responsible one, the giver, the fixer. They don't know how to relate to you any other way. His words struck me with the force of revelation. He was right. Our family dynamic had been set in stone since childhood. Kevin and Megan took, my parents enabled them, and I provided. I'd never seriously challenged this pattern, always giving in to the pressure to be the dependable daughter, the generous sister. The next day, I started therapy with Dr. Fiona Barrett, a family systems specialist Marcus had researched for me. In our first session, I poured out the Christmas story and years of background. What I hear, Dr. Barrett said carefully, is that you've been cast in a role that no longer serves you, but your family resists any attempt to redefine that role. Why? I asked. Why can't they see how unfair it's been? Because the current system works for them, she explained. If you change your role, everyone else has to change too, and change is uncomfortable. They're going to push back hard to maintain the status quo. Over the next few weeks, Dr. Barrett helped me see that the Christmas incident wasn't an isolated event, but the culmination of a lifetime of imbalance. She encouraged me to journal about other instances when my family had taken advantage of my generosity. The list was painfully long. Kevin borrowing my car for 6 months during college, returning it with a damaged transmission he couldn't pay to fix. Megan ruining my favorite dress before an important interview, then dismissing my upset because it's just clothes. My parents expecting me to host and fund Thanksgiving dinner last year because they'd spent their holiday budget on a weekend getaway with friends. As January progressed, I slowly returned to my normal work routine, but my perspective had fundamentally shifted. I checked my bank statements and credit card history, calculating exactly how much money I'd given my family over the years. The total was staggering, over $70,000 since I'd started working full-time. What could I have done with that money? Marcus and I had been saving for a down payment on a house, delaying our plans because my finances were constantly drained by family emergencies. I could have taken the international vacation I'd always dreamed of, or invested in additional education, or simply built a more secure financial future. The anger that replaced my initial hurt was clarifying. I began to see that my willingness to always say yes hadn't actually helped my family. It had enabled patterns of dependency and entitlement that weren't healthy for any of us. In late January, my family returned from their Bahamas trip. My mother called immediately, leaving a voicemail that managed to sound both concerned and annoyed. Rachel, this silent treatment is childish. We need to talk about what happened. Call me back. I didn't. Instead, I forwarded the voicemail to Dr. Barrett, who pointed out the subtle manipulation. Framing my need for space as childish, making the issue about my response rather than their actions. A few days later, Kevin texted, "Hey sis, I need to borrow $600 for rent. Things are tight after the trip. I'll pay you back next month for sure. The audacity was breathtaking. No acknowledgement of what had happened, no real apology, just another request for money. In the past, I would have transferred the funds immediately, accepting his empty promise of repayment. This time, I simply replied, "No." His response came within seconds. "What do you mean no? I need it by tomorrow, or I'll get late fees." "That's not my problem," I wrote back. "Figure it out yourself." The barrage of texts that followed ranged from disbelief to anger to guilt-tripping. How could I leave him hanging? What kind of sister was I? Did I want him to get evicted? I turned off my phone and went to dinner with Marcus, who raised his glass in a toast when I told him what I'd done. "To setting boundaries," he said. "It's about time." The next day, my parents called, clearly having heard from Kevin. "Rachel," my father began without preamble, "your brother is in a difficult position. I know you're still upset about Christmas, but family helps family." "You're right," I agreed. "Family does help family. Like when family invites you on vacation instead of lying to your face. Like when family doesn't use you as an ATM." "That's not fair," my mother interjected. "We've always been there for you." "When?" I challenged. "When have you ever put me first? When have you ever sacrificed for me the way I've sacrificed for all of you?" The silence was telling. "I've been thinking about this a lot," I continued, "about how our family works. And I've realized it's not working for me anymore." "What does that mean?" my father asked, wariness in his voice. "It means I'm done being the family bank. It means I'm taking a step back until I figure out what kind of relationship I actually want with all of you." After I hung up, Megan called next, her approach more emotional. "Rachel," she sobbed, "Kevin told me what you said to Mom and Dad. How can you abandon us like this? We're your family." "Yes, you are," I agreed. "And families should treat each other with respect and honesty. Did you respect me when you lied about the vacation? Were you honest when you asked for rent money that you used for a beach trip?" "That's different," she insisted. "I really did need help with rent. I just also wanted to go on the trip. And you didn't think I deserved to know that? You didn't think I deserved the chance to decide if I wanted to subsidize your vacation?" "You're being so cold," she accused. "This isn't like you. Maybe the Rachel you knew. The one who always said yes, who always put everyone else first. Maybe she doesn't exist anymore." As January turned to February, the pressure intensified. Extended family members began calling, Aunt Patty suggesting I was tearing the family apart over a simple misunderstanding, Uncle Bill insisting that family forgives. The only supporter was my cousin Jessica, who called one evening with a different perspective. "I just want you to know," she said quietly, "that I understand why you're upset. They did the same thing to me last year with the ski trip. No one told me until I saw the photos on Facebook." Her solidarity was a lifeline. "How did you handle it?" I asked. "Not as well as you," she admitted. "I forgave them immediately and pretended it didn't hurt. But it did, and honestly, nothing changed. They did it again this year with the Bahamas trip." Her words confirmed what I was beginning to understand, that without real consequences, my family would never change their behavior. The pattern would continue indefinitely, with me always cast as the reliable provider who could be taken for granted. As winter progressed, I maintained my distance while working with Dr. Barrett to process my feelings. The space allowed me to see our family dynamic with painful clarity, how my parents had always favored my siblings, how Kevin and Megan had learned to manipulate rather than self-sustain, how I'd been both victim and enabler of this unhealthy system. "What do you want a relationship with your family to look like going forward?" Dr. Barrett asked during one session. I considered the question carefully. "I want mutual respect. I want honesty. I want them to value me for who I am, not what I can provide. And if they can't give you that?" The question hung in the air, challenging me to consider a possibility I'd never allowed myself to face, that perhaps my family was incapable of the relationship I deserved. "Then I need to accept that and adjust my expectations accordingly," I said finally. "I can't keep hoping they'll change if they've shown me repeatedly that they won't." It was a turning point. Instead of trying to fix our broken family system, I began to focus on healing myself. I stopped checking their social media. I invested more energy in friendships that felt balanced and supportive. I opened a new savings account specifically for the house down payment, watching with satisfaction as the balance grew without constant withdrawals for family emergencies. Marcus noticed the change in me. "You seem lighter," he observed one evening as we cooked dinner together. "Like you've put down a heavy backpack you've been carrying for years." He was right. The constant anxiety about family needs had lifted, replaced by a growing sense of empowerment. For the first time in my adult life, my resources, emotional, financial, temporal, were truly my own. But my family wasn't ready to release their grip so easily. As spring approached and they realized my boundaries weren't temporary, their tactics escalated from guilt to anger to desperation. The confrontation that would finally force me to make the hardest and ultimately most liberating decision of my life was brewing. And when it came, there would be no going back to the person I was before. March arrived with a flurry of renewed contact from my family. They seemed to have collectively decided that enough time had passed for me to get over the Christmas incident. My mother called on a Sunday afternoon while Marcus and I were painting our apartment. "Rachel, this has gone on long enough," she began without preamble. "We need to have a family dinner and put this behind us." I set down my paintbrush, steeling myself. "I'm not ready for that. It's been over 2 months. How much longer are you going to punish us for one little mistake?" "It wasn't one little mistake," I corrected her. "It was months of coordinated lying. It was using me for money to fund a vacation I wasn't invited to. It was treating me like I only matter when I'm useful." My mother sighed dramatically. "You always were sensitive. We didn't tell you about the trip because we knew you'd react exactly like this, making everything about you." Her words hit like a slap. Even now, she couldn't acknowledge the real harm they'd caused. "I'm not having this conversation," I said quietly and hung up. The next day, my father called my office line, knowing I would likely answer a work call. "Rachel, your mother is very upset," he said when I picked up. "I'm upset too, Dad. Look, we made a mistake not telling you about the trip. We apologize for that. But it's time to move forward as a family. Have you actually thought about why I'm hurt?" I asked. "Has anyone in our family considered that this isn't about a vacation, but about years of being taken for granted?" "That's not fair," he protested. "We've always appreciated you." "Appreciation isn't just words, Dad. It's actions. It's treating someone with respect. It's not lying to them or using them." He was silent for a moment. "What do you want from us, Rachel?" It was the first genuine question anyone in my family had asked since this began. "I want you to understand why this hurt me so deeply. I want acknowledgement that our family dynamic has been unbalanced for years. I want real change, not just empty apologies so we can pretend everything is fine." "We can discuss all that at family dinner," he suggested. "Your mother's planning it for Sunday." Despite my reservations, I agreed to attend. Perhaps a face-to-face conversation was what we needed to break through the cycle of hurt and defensiveness. When Sunday arrived, I drove to my parents' house alone, having asked Marcus to give me space to handle this myself. My stomach churned with anxiety as I parked in the familiar driveway. Inside, the scene was artificially normal. My mother's signature pot roast in the oven, the dining room table set with the good china, everyone dressed as if for a special occasion. Kevin and Megan were already there, both eyeing me warily as I entered. "Rachel." My mother embraced me as if nothing had happened. "You look thin. Have you been eating properly?" Dinner began with stilted small talk, work updates, neighborhood news, comments about the unseasonably warm weather. No one mentioned the Bahamas trip or the tension that hung palpably in the air. Finally, as my mother served dessert, my father cleared his throat. "We're all here because we need to address what happened at Christmas and move forward as a family." I waited, hoping against hope for a genuine conversation about the deeper issues. "Rachel," he continued, "we understand you were hurt by not being included in the vacation plans. We should have handled it differently, and we're sorry for that." My mother nodded earnestly. "We never meant to hurt you, honey. We just didn't think you'd be able to take time off work, and we didn't want you to feel bad about missing out. It was the same surface-level explanation they'd given at Christmas. Nothing had changed. That's not good enough, I said quietly. What do you mean, not good enough? Kevin interjected. They said they're sorry. What more do you want? I want you all to understand that this isn't just about the vacation. It's about years of being treated like the family, eh? It's about the fact that I've given and given while you've all taken and taken. That's not true, Megan protested. We're family. We help each other. When have any of you helped me? I challenged. When have you sacrificed for me the way I've sacrificed for all of you? The silence was deafening. Let me be specific, I continued, pulling out my phone where I'd compiled notes. Kevin, in the past 5 years, you've borrowed over $40,000 from me without repaying a cent. Megan, I've covered your rent 6 times and paid for 2 separate college programs you dropped out of. Mom and Dad, I've contributed to your household expenses repeatedly when you've drained your accounts helping these two. My family exchanged uncomfortable glances. Now, let me ask again. When have any of you helped me? We've given you plenty, my mother insisted. We helped with your college tuition. You contributed $5,000 to my tuition, I corrected her. I worked through college and took out loans for the rest. Meanwhile, you paid Kevin's tuition in full, and you're still paying Megan's student loans. That's different, my father argued. They needed more help than you did. You've always been so capable. So, I'm punished for being responsible? For working hard? For making good choices? Nobody's punishing you, Kevin scoffed. You're just better with money than we are. And that makes it okay to treat me like your personal bank? The conversation was deteriorating quickly, with everyone talking over each other, denying my perspective, minimizing my feelings. I've made a decision, I announced, cutting through the chaos. I'm no longer providing financial support to any of you. The room went suddenly, completely silent. What do you mean? Kevin asked, his voice tight. I mean exactly what I said. No more loans. No more paying bills. No more financial bailouts of any kind. You can't be serious, Megan said, her eyes wide with alarm. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. My mother's hand fluttered to her throat. But what about family helping family? What about being there for each other? I'm still happy to be there emotionally, to spend time together, to build a healthier relationship. But the Bank of Rachel is permanently closed. But my rent is due next week, Kevin blurted out. I was counting on you. Of course he was. You'll need to figure it out yourself, I said calmly. Just like you figured out how to fund a Bahamas vacation. The mood shifted instantly from disbelief to panic. My financial support, which they had taken for granted for so long, was suddenly in jeopardy. And with it, their comfortable lives built on my sacrifices. You're being selfish, my father accused, anger replacing his earlier conciliatory tone. No, Dad. For the first time in my life, I'm refusing to be selfless to the point of self-harm. There's a difference. Is this because of Marcus? My mother demanded. Has he turned you against your family? The suggestion that I couldn't make my own decisions was infuriating. This has nothing to do with Marcus and everything to do with how you've all treated me. He simply helped me see what I should have recognized years ago, that this isn't a healthy family dynamic. So you're choosing him over us, Megan said bitterly. I'm choosing myself, I corrected her. I'm choosing not to be used anymore. As the reality of my decisions sank in, the conversation devolved further. Kevin accused me of being heartless. Megan cried about potentially losing her apartment. My mother invoked family loyalty and tradition. My father threatened that I would regret cutting ties with family. I'm not cutting ties, I clarified. I'm setting boundaries. There's a difference. But they couldn't, or wouldn't, understand the distinction. In their minds, my role was fixed. I was the provider, the supporter, the one who sacrificed. Any deviation from that role was a betrayal of family itself. After an hour of circular arguments and escalating emotions, I stood to leave. I love you all, I said, surprising myself with the truth of it despite everything. But I can't continue in this pattern. It's not healthy for any of us. If you walk out that door, my father warned, don't expect things to go back to normal when you come to your senses. That's exactly what I'm hoping for, Dad, I replied, because normal is the problem. As I drove home, my phone exploded with messages. My mother claiming I'd given her an anxiety attack, Kevin calling me selfish, Megan saying I was dead to her. The vitriol was painful, but also revealing. Their reactions confirmed what I'd begun to suspect. Their love was conditional, dependent on what I could provide rather than who I was. The next few weeks brought an expansion of the battlefield. Extended family members called to talk sense into me. Aunt Susan insisted I was tearing the family apart over money. Uncle Paul suggested I was being brainwashed by that boyfriend of yours. Only cousin Jessica remained supportive, calling to say, I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. I wish I had your courage. The pressure was intense, but I held firm. With each attempt to manipulate me back into my old role, my resolve strengthened. The family I had longed for, one based on mutual respect and genuine care, clearly didn't exist. And no amount of self-sacrifice on my part would create it. As spring progressed, the direct attacks gave way to more subtle manipulation. My mother sent photos of family gatherings I hadn't been invited to, with captions like, missing our complete family. Kevin forwarded job rejections with notes like, guess I'll be homeless soon. Hope you're happy. Megan posted cryptic social media updates about finding out who your real friends are in hard times. Each attempt to make me feel guilty reinforced that I'd made the right decision. They still didn't understand or care about the real issue. They just wanted the financial support to resume. In therapy, Dr. Barrett helped me process the ongoing fallout. What you're experiencing is an extinction burst, she explained. When a behavior that was previously rewarded suddenly stops being rewarded, the behavior often intensifies before it finally stops. They're pulling out all the stops to get you to return to your old role. Will it ever end? I asked, exhausted by the constant emotional assault. Yes, she assured me. When they truly understand that the old pattern is gone for good, they'll either adapt to the new reality or they'll distance themselves. And if they choose distance, then that's valuable information about the true nature of your relationship. Her words were hard to hear, but undeniably true. If my family couldn't love me without financial strings attached, perhaps what we had wasn't really love at all. As the confrontation phase extended into early summer, I focused on strengthening my chosen family, friends who valued me for myself, not what I could provide. Marcus and I moved forward with wedding plans, deciding on a small ceremony with people who truly supported our relationship. The lines had been drawn. I had taken my stand. But the most difficult test of my resolve, and the true breaking point that would determine the future of my family relationships, was yet to come. The breaking point came in late June, nearly 6 months after the Christmas revelation. I was at work when my mother called, her voice uncharacteristically soft. Rachel, I've been doing a lot of thinking, she began. I miss you. We all do. Can we please try to move past this? Her tone seemed sincere, lacking the accusatory edge of previous conversations. For a moment, hope flickered within me. Perhaps they were finally beginning to understand. I miss you too, Mom, I admitted. But moving forward requires more than just pretending nothing happened. I know, she said quickly. We made mistakes. The vacation, the way we've relied on you financially, it wasn't fair. It was the most acknowledgement I'd received from any family member. My throat tightened with emotion. That means a lot to hear, Mom. So, you'll come to Sunday dinner this weekend? Everyone will be there, and we can start fresh. I hesitated, wary but wanting to believe in the possibility of change. I'll think about it, okay? I need to check with Marcus about our plans. Marcus, she repeated, her voice cooling slightly. You know, Rachel, I sometimes wonder if he's the one who put all these ideas in your head about us using you. And there it was, the manipulation hiding beneath the apparent conciliation. The flickering hope extinguished. Mom, I'm a 30-year-old woman with my own mind. My decisions are my own. Of course, honey, she backpedaled, but the damage was done. Just think about Sunday, okay? We miss you. After hanging up, I sat at my desk, a strange calm settling over me. That call had clarified something essential. The surface might change, but the underlying pattern remained. They wanted the old Rachel back, the one who would give endlessly without questioning the imbalance. That evening, I created a spreadsheet, methodically documenting every dollar I'd given my family over the years. I included dates, amounts, stated purposes, and whether the money had been repaid. Almost never. The final tally was staggering: $73,428.19 over 8 years. What could that money have bought? A down payment on a house, a significant portion of my student loans, financial security during economic uncertainty. But the financial cost, while substantial, wasn't the most important calculation. The next day, I created a different kind of spreadsheet, an emotional balance sheet. On one side, I listed what I'd given my family emotionally: constant support, priority in my schedule, emotional labor, unconditional acceptance of their choices. On the other side, I listed what I'd received: conditional love, criticism disguised as concern, dismissal of my feelings, betrayal of trust. The imbalance was even more striking than the financial one. Marcus found me staring at these spreadsheets late that night. "Are you sure you want to do this?" he asked gently. "Quantifying relationships can be painful." "I need to see it clearly," I explained. "I need to understand exactly what I've been sacrificing and what I've gotten in return." "And what will you do with that information?" I took a deep breath. "Make a final decision about my boundaries going forward." Over the next few days, I consulted with 3 people: Dr. Barrett, my oldest friend Stephanie, and a financial advisor named Alyssa Wright. Each provided perspective on a different aspect of my situation. Dr. Barrett helped me articulate what healthy family relationships should look like and acknowledge that mine fell far short of that standard. Stephanie, who had known me since college, reminded me of specific instances when my family had taken advantage of my generosity while criticizing my choices. Alyssa outlined the financial implications of continuing to support my family versus focusing on my own financial health and future with Marcus. By Friday, I had made my decision. I would not attend Sunday dinner. Instead, I would draw a clear, firm line that could not be crossed or manipulated. I spent Saturday drafting an email to my entire family, parents, siblings, and the extended family members who had involved themselves in the situation. I revised it multiple times, removing emotional language in favor of clear, direct statements. Marcus read the final version, suggesting only a few small changes for clarity. On Sunday morning, at the exact time I would have been driving to my parents' house, I sent the email. Subject: my decision regarding our family relationship *to my family *after careful consideration. I am writing to clearly communicate my decision regarding our relationship moving forward. I will no longer provide financial support of any kind to any family member. This includes but is not limited to loans, gifts, bill payments, co-signing, and emergency assistance. This decision is final and non-negotiable. I have documented $73,428.19 in financial support provided over the past 8 years, most of which was given with the understanding it would be repaid. I am formally forgiving these debts, as I recognize they will likely never be repaid. However, this forgiveness comes with the understanding that no future financial requests will be considered. I am open to building a new relationship based on mutual respect and honest communication. However, this cannot happen until everyone acknowledges the patterns that led to this point. I will not pretend that the Christmas incident was an isolated event rather than part of a long-standing dynamic. For the immediate future, I am establishing the following boundaries. I will not attend family gatherings where my feelings and perspective are dismissed. I will not engage in conversations that attempt to guilt or manipulate me. I will not respond to messages that blame Marcus or others for my decisions. I will block anyone who continues to send manipulative or abusive communications. I love you all and hope that we can eventually build healthier relationships. But that cannot happen without significant changes in how we interact. Rachel the response was immediate and overwhelming. My phone exploded with notifications, texts, calls, voicemails, emails. I silenced it and placed it in a drawer, giving myself permission not to engage with their immediate reactions. Later that evening, when I finally checked the responses, they fell into predictable patterns. My father was coldly furious, writing, "I never thought I'd see the day when my daughter would put money above family. Your mother is devastated." Kevin alternated between rage and panic. "You selfish bitch. What am I supposed to do about rent now?" Followed by, "Please, Rachel, I'm desperate. Just this one last time." Megan went straight for emotional manipulation. "I can't believe you're doing this to us. Mom hasn't stopped crying. Is this really the person you want to be?" Extended family members expressed shock and disapproval, with Aunt Patty writing, "Family helps family. Period. This isn't how you were raised." But there were also unexpected responses. Uncle Bill, my father's brother, wrote, "I understand more than you might think. It took courage to set these boundaries. Give everyone time to adjust." And most surprisingly, my cousin Taylor sent a private message, "I've watched how they've treated you for years. It wasn't right. I admire you for standing up for yourself." The most telling reaction came the next day when Kevin showed up unannounced at my apartment, pounding on the door and shouting. Marcus moved to answer it, but I stopped him. "Let me handle this." Through the door, I called, "Kevin, I'm not opening the door while you're behaving this way. If you want to talk calmly, text me, and we can arrange a meeting in a public place." "You can't hide from family," he shouted. "You think you're so much better than us with your fancy job and perfect boyfriend, but you're nothing without us." His words were painful, but also clarifying. This wasn't about love or genuine connection. It was about control and access to resources. "I'm calling building security," I informed him calmly. "Please leave before they arrive." He did, but not before sliding a note under the door with just 5 words, "You'll regret this decision forever." I picked up the note, feeling strangely calm. "Actually," I said to the empty hallway, "I think this is the first decision I won't regret." The next weeks brought escalating attempts to break my resolve. My mother left tearful voicemails about how I was killing her with worry. My father sent formal emails about my family obligations. Megan created social media posts clearly directed at me, lamenting how some people forget where they came from. Each attempt reinforced that I'd made the right decision. They still didn't understand, or chose not to understand, the fundamental issue. They saw me as a resource to be managed, not a person with valid feelings and boundaries. With the help of my financial advisor, I systematically removed my financial connections to my family. I closed joint accounts, removed my name from cosign loans that had been paid off, and canceled automatic payments I'd set up for various family expenses. It was like untangling a complex web, one that had been woven over years of enmeshment. Each strand removed felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. The family pressure peaked when my parents involved our family's longtime pastor, Reverend Thomas, who called to express concern about my hardened heart. "Rachel," he said gravely, "forgiveness is at the core of family life." "I have forgiven," I replied. "But forgiveness doesn't mean allowing the same patterns to continue. It doesn't mean being a doormat." "Your family is struggling without your support," he pressed. "Surely as a Christian, you feel called to help those in need." "Reverend Thomas," I said carefully, "would you advise an alcoholic's family to keep providing alcohol? Because that's essentially what you're asking me to do, continue enabling behaviors that harm everyone involved, including those engaging in them." He had no response to that. By August, the intensity of the backlash began to wane. The daily barrage of messages slowed to occasional attempts. My mother's tone shifted from accusatory to resigned, my father's from commanding to distant. Kevin and Megan, forced to find other solutions to their financial problems, communicated less frequently. The most telling sign came when Megan posted on Instagram about her new job at Starbucks with a caption, "Sometimes you have to do what you have to do." It was the first job she'd held for more than a month in years. Kevin, according to mutual friends, had moved to a smaller apartment and taken on a roommate. My parents, facing the reality of no longer having my financial cushion for their retirement, had consulted with a financial advisor of their own. They were adapting, just as Dr. Barrett had predicted they might. Without access to my resources, they were finding ways to support themselves. The irony wasn't lost on me. My selfish decision had actually forced them into greater self-sufficiency and responsibility. As summer turned to fall, I experienced something unexpected, relief mixed with genuine grief. Relief that the constant drain on my finances and emotions had stopped. Grief for the family I had always wanted but never truly had. Through therapy, I came to understand that this grief wasn't new. It had been there all along, buried beneath layers of hope and denial. I wasn't mourning a lost relationship so much as acknowledging a truth I'd long tried to ignore, that the loving, supportive family I'd tried so hard to create through sacrifice and compromise had existed only in my imagination. By October, nearly a year after the Christmas that changed everything, Marcus and I had saved enough for a modest down payment on a condo. Without the constant financial demands from my family, our savings had grown surprisingly quickly. The day we signed the mortgage papers, I felt a profound sense of accomplishment and freedom. This milestone, which had seemed perpetually out of reach while I was supporting my family, had become attainable in less than a year of financial independence. That evening, as we toasted our new home with champagne, Marcus asked gently, "Any regrets?" I considered the question seriously. "About the condo?" "Absolutely none." "About your family," he clarified. I looked around at the small but charming space that was truly ours, bought with money we had earned and saved, representing a future we were building together. "My only regret," I said finally, "is that I didn't set these boundaries years ago." As I prepared for my first holiday season without contact with my immediate family, I felt both trepidation and a quiet confidence. The path I had chosen wasn't easy, but it was right for me. And for the first time in my adult life, that was the priority that mattered most. 1 year after the Christmas that changed everything, I stood in the kitchen of the condo Marcus and I had purchased, arranging cookies on a platter for our holiday gathering. The guest list included friends from work, Marcus's brother and sister-in-law, my cousin Jessica and her husband, and a few neighbors we'd become close to. "Need any help?" Marcus asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind. "I think I've got it under control." I smiled, leaning back against him. "Hard to believe it's been a year." "You've come so far," he murmured, kissing my temple. "I'm proud of you." His words warmed me because they were true. The journey from last Christmas to this one had been challenging, but transformative. With the help of therapy, supportive friends, and the clarity that comes from distance, I had rebuilt my life around healthier relationships and stronger boundaries. Dr. Barrett had been instrumental in my healing process. Our weekly sessions had evolved from crisis management to deeper work on my patterns and beliefs. I learned to recognize and challenge the guilty thoughts that arose whenever I prioritized my own needs. I practiced saying no without following it with justifications or apologies. "Your mental health has improved dramatically," she noted during our session earlier that week. "When we started, you were having anxiety attacks and sleeping poorly. Now you seem centered and calm." She was right. The constant knot of tension I'd carried in my chest for years had dissolved. I slept through the night more often than not. The persistent sense of inadequacy, of never doing enough, never giving enough, had faded. Professionally, I'd thrived as well. Without the emotional drain of family drama, I had more energy and focus for my work. I'd been promoted to senior marketing director, with a team of 8 reporting to me. The boundaries I practiced in my personal life translated to better management skills. I delegated effectively instead of taking everything on myself, and I advocated for my team's needs rather than just accommodating every client demand. Our new holiday traditions had evolved naturally. Instead of the formal, tension-filled gathering at my parents' house, we hosted a relaxed open house where friends could drop in throughout the day. Instead of expensive gifts designed to impress, we organized a light-hearted white elephant exchange. Instead of my mother's rigid menu, we created a potluck where everyone brought a dish that represented their own family traditions. The ham smells amazing, I told Marcus, checking the oven. Your grandmother's recipe was definitely the right choice. She'd be thrilled to know we're using it, he said. She always said food is how you build new families. New families. The phrase captured exactly what I'd been creating over the past year, a chosen family built on mutual respect and genuine care rather than obligation and guilt. I still received occasional updates about my biological family through extended relatives and social media. The updates confirmed what I'd hoped might happen, that my withdrawal of financial support would ultimately benefit everyone. Kevin, faced with the reality of supporting himself completely, had taken a steady job at an insurance company rather than chasing get-rich-quick schemes. According to my cousin Taylor, he'd been there 6 months and was doing well. He actually seems less stressed, Taylor reported during a coffee date. He's not constantly scrambling for money or pitching new business ideas. He just goes to work, collects his paycheck, and pays his bills like a regular adult. Megan had surprised everyone by not only keeping her Starbucks job but also returning to community college with a clear plan. She was studying hospitality management and paying for it herself through a combination of work, scholarships, and carefully managed student loans. She seems more confident, Jessica told me. Like she's actually proud of what she's accomplishing instead of just drifting. My parents had downsized to a smaller house, acknowledging that their previous lifestyle had been financially unsustainable without my contributions. My father had delayed retirement by a few years, and my mother had taken on additional tutoring work to supplement their income. These changes hadn't been easy for any of them, but they were necessary adjustments to reality. My financial support had been a crutch that prevented them from developing their own strength and resilience. Removing it had been painful, but ultimately beneficial. Our relationship remained distant, but was slowly evolving. After months of manipulative messages and guilt trips, my mother had finally sent an email that showed a glimmer of understanding. I've been thinking about what you said regarding patterns in our family. While I don't agree with how you've handled things, I can acknowledge that we relied on you too heavily. Your father and I are working with a financial advisor now to plan for our retirement without burdening you or your siblings. I hope someday we can find a way to be family again without the financial aspect. It wasn't a full acknowledgement of the deeper emotional issues, but it was a start, an admission that the previous dynamic had been inappropriate and unsustainable. I responded with a brief but cordial email, thanking her for reaching out and expressing hope for continued growth and understanding. We weren't ready for in-person meetings or holiday gatherings, but the door was slightly open for a new type of relationship in the future. Kevin and Megan remained more resistant to change. Kevin had sent a Christmas card with a stiff note saying he was doing fine without any help. Thanks. His pride clearly still wounded. Megan followed me on Instagram from a new account but never commented or messaged directly. These small gestures revealed the painful truth about family healing. It happens at different rates for different people, and sometimes complete reconciliation is impossible. I had made peace with that reality, understanding that I could only control my own actions and responses, not anyone else's journey. The doorbell rang, interrupting my reflections. Our first guests had arrived. As the condo filled with friends and chosen family, the contrast with last Christmas couldn't have been more striking. Instead of walking on eggshells, I moved freely through my own space. Instead of manufacturing cheer to cover underlying tension, genuine laughter filled the rooms. Instead of measuring my worth by what I provided, I was valued simply for being myself. After dinner, as we gathered in the living room for dessert, Jessica raised her glass. I'd like to propose a toast to Rachel and Marcus for creating this beautiful new tradition and for showing all of us what it means to build a life on your own terms. Glasses clinked as warm eyes met mine around the room. In that moment, surrounded by people who truly saw and appreciated me, I felt a profound sense of homecoming, not to a physical place, but to myself. Later, after the last guest had departed and Marcus and I were cleaning up, he asked, "What are you thinking about?" "You've got that reflective look." I considered the question as I rinsed a plate. I'm thinking about how sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most growth. A year ago, I was devastated about losing my family. Now I understand that I didn't lose them. I found myself. He nodded, understanding as always. And in finding yourself, you created space for relationships that actually nurture you instead of depleting you.
Exactly.
I placed the last dish in the dishwasher and turned to embrace him. I learned that protecting your peace isn't selfish. It's necessary. That real love doesn't demand the sacrifice of your self-worth. That sometimes the strongest family bonds are the ones we choose, not the ones we're born into. As we turned off the lights and prepared for bed, I felt a deep sense of peace. The journey hadn't been easy, and it wasn't completely finished. There would always be complicated feelings about my family of origin, occasional pangs of loss for what might have been. But I had discovered a profound truth through this painful process, that the capacity to set boundaries, to require respect, to value myself, these weren't acts of selfishness, but of self-preservation. And in preserving myself, I had created space for authentic connections based on mutual care rather than obligation or utility. The Christmas lights twinkled outside our window as I drifted toward sleep, Marcus's steady breathing beside me. I was no longer the family ATM, the reliable fixer, the endless giver. I was simply Rachel, whole, worthy, and finally at home in her own life. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision to protect your peace and self-worth? Did it lead to unexpected growth or healing? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about finding strength through life's challenges. Remember, sometimes the hardest choices become our greatest blessings. Thank you for being part of this journey with me, and may you find the courage to create the life and relationships you truly deserve.